Hi.
Hello, hello.
Hi. Okay, we are ready to rock and roll. So, hello, and welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's going to be a great day. Thank you for joining us this week for another installment of Ask Epic. We are meet every week to discuss all things Epic. We want to provide new to Epic families and returning families a place to learn about all the opportunities that we offer, and we offer a lot. We have a lot of fun every week. And boy, do we have a great one today because we have a great expert with us today. And we're really excited because it's almost fall break. My name is Carla Smitherman, and I'm from the Epic Development Team.
Hi, and I'm Ashley Brown. I'm also from the Epic Development Team. Happy to be here today with all of you. Yes, getting excited about fall break totally snuck up on me. And then someone mentioned it the other day, like, well, it's fall break next week. I was like, yes, that's my favorite kind of break, the one that you forgot about. So that's awesome. So today we're going to be talking about our SPED department and the services that we offer at Epic for our IEP students. So if you are just tuning in, if you have questions or comments, please drop those in the chat box and Carla and I will get to those as they come up. If you have like a more specific question or something that might need a little one-on-one help, I'm going to drop Carla and I's team email and phone extension in the chat. And so you can reach out to us and someone from our team will talk to you individually.
All right. Okay. So we always start off by continuing. We're going to continue on with offering tips to our new families at Epic. And we're going to start off our guest. Her name is Miss Darla Cooper. We'll introduce her later and let her introduce herself. Yes, I see her waving. Hi, Miss Cooper. Thank you for joining us. But Miss Cooper, we always ask our guests the best questions. And the first question we'll ask is, give us a tip. We have a new family to Epic who might be watching us, who's joining us. Give us a tip as to, great outcomes. We're looking for great outcomes this year. Give us a tip from maybe either from a teacher perspective. I know that you have a student with Epic. What would you like to offer to us today?
Well, I think I was just talking to some teachers, and we were just talking about, how whenever you get on an airplane and they say now if we happen to lose cabin pressure and the oxygen mask comes down, put it on yourself before you put it on your kids. And it's so important to say that because you think to yourself, well, I want to put it on my kid because I care about my kids so much. And I think we have parents at Epic that just care about their kids so much. But just remember to be kind to yourself in this process. Like you, as an Epic parent, I'm an Epic parent as well as an Epic staff member. And, I was an Epic teacher. Man, I get it. When you just feel overwhelmed, you got to put the oxygen mask on yourself, take care of yourself, be kind to yourself so you can take really good care of your kids. So,
Wow, that was a great one. And I stand corrected. You are a former Epic teacher with Epic. You are an administrator now. I have to tell everyone she was my a mentor with me when we were teaching, one of the best ever. So so I appreciate all the work that she does, and I can't wait for her to share what she does with Epic. My tip for today is because I love math. My background is math, and I just teach personal financial literacy in middle school, and that's just my vibe. And so I like to tell families to get great outcomes with math is to make sure that you're telling your children when you go grocery shopping, and just do things that are practical in math. When you're driving along with little kids, count tires, count M&Ms. When you're cooking, and you're measuring that sugar, do your for baking, for fractions, have them help you in the kitchen. All of those things are helping your student to have great outcomes in math. Have them help you in the grocery store to count. everything into the basket. So anyway, those are some of my tips. That's my tip of the day. So I really think that will help you have great outcomes in your math. And we want that for our students, right, Ms. Cooper?
Yeah, definitely. You know, one of the things I had my own son would always ask me for stuff in the grocery store. So put him in charge of the calculator on my phone, and he had to add up the cost of everything. He was in charge of making sure we didn't go over budget.
I love
But
that.
it gave him something to do. It may or may not, there was a ulterior motive there.
I like that. When I also remember you used to always share with us concrete to abstract to concrete. And so we really want to make sure we're sharing that also as in SPED. We talk about that a lot as
Yeah,
well.
yeah,
So
for sure.
anyway, all righty.
Making sure that you start with those concrete hands-on activities, moving into the pictorial, sketching it out, and then abstract for like formulas and things like that. We can
Right.
talk about that.
A little bit later. Right. Absolutely. Okay. All right, Ashley.
Awesome. Well, we're excited to be here today. Darla, you've kind of already spoken, but we have Darla Cooper here today. Do you mind introducing yourself, Darla, and telling us your role at Epic?
Sure. I am the director of a newly rolled out team, the Special Services Advisory Team. We work primarily with special ed teachers, but special services encompasses special ed, 504, ELL, basically anybody that doesn't fall under the umbrella of kind of your neurotypical student, kind of outside that umbrella, then those are our people. So we do teacher training. We work on troubleshooting problems with students that are just really having a difficult time, and we also do work with our new to Epic, new to SPED teachers on implementing IEP goals and interventions. So that's kind of a short capsulated thing of what I do, but I'm part of our special services team supporting special ed and special services.
Yeah,
And
that's
I have
so
a team. I have
exciting.
a team of 6 of us. So
Oh, wow. Yeah, there's a lot of you then. That's awesome. I think that's so neat that Epic is doing that. It's just a way to further support our teachers at Epic. It's a way to further support our students and their families. So anything that can help our students get the best outcome. I mean, that's everyone's goal, but that's definitely your team's goal. And so that's really awesome to hear what you guys are up to. And so kind of getting started today, Carla and I, our team, we talk to parents daily that are considering coming to Epic, but maybe they have concerns because they might have a student that's on an IEP, and they're asking us questions about what services we can offer, how can we address the specific challenges their students have, and how are we meeting the needs of our families. And so we just thought it was really important that we cover this today, because virtual school is different, right? And you might wonder, how does this play out in the virtual setting? But it works out and it works wonderfully. Something that I think is really interesting is that 1 out of 5 students that's enrolling at Epic currently is on an IEP. And so that's like our fastest growing student population at Epic. So clearly something's working. You guys in the SPED department are doing it right, because the word has gotten out that we're offering that individualized education for students. Not every student fits under the in the box mold of what school looks like. So we're really excited to talk with you today. So Darla, would you mind just to kind of start us out, a kind of a general overview of what is the SPED department and who is it meant to serve?
sure. So we do, I think often whenever we think about brick and mortar public schools, we do get questions. I do feel those phone calls that says, well, but my kid's on an IEP. How are you going to do that? So one of the things at Epic that in brick and mortar, oftentimes you might have something like a resource room that you go to, or maybe a lab class or something like that. And so we don't necessarily have a resource room, but every student that is on an IEP is partnered with a certified special education teacher. So with that certified special education teacher, they are literally working with your student on their IEP goals, as well as their core curriculum goals and expectations, state standards, things like that. So they do both, and which is, I think, lovely. And one of the things too is if your student has speech or PT or occupational therapy or anything like that, we actually provide that at our Tulsa site and our Oklahoma City site and some of our other micro sites. We actually have speech therapists, physical therapists, occupational therapists that can work directly with your student in person. But then also for those of you that live in like rural areas, or maybe you have like an immunocompromised student and can't, doesn't need to be with in person with people, we have virtual services like that too. So I think that's super cool that we can do both. And our special education teachers are meeting with your student according to the IEP services, but it would be a minimum of once a week that they would work with them. And I think we do an amazing job. One of the things that I love when I taught brick and mortar public schools, special ed, my kids would get, wiggly, squirrely. It's hard sometimes to sit. I love the fact that if you're getting wiggly and squirrely, if you need to go jump on the trampoline, climb a tree, take a break, that is beautiful. A lot of those kind of behavioral things that come out whenever you're just expected to sit still and do your work, you can take those breaks. And a lot of that just becomes almost organic within the family, with the home environment. So I love that. And I feel like our special education teachers are some of the best in the planet. And we have such a great department. So I hope I covered that
Absolutely.
question, Ashley.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Yeah. I am so impressed with our SPED teachers. We've got a couple on the call, you, Darla and Carla. You guys have been amazing. And I know myself when I'm talking to families, every day that are calling in asking about Epic. I love that I have Carla that I can call on and say, hey, I've got a parent, an IEP parent with a question. And I love having Carla as a resource. So, okay, awesome. So I know that to qualify for an IEP, to be in the SPED department, you're going to have an IEP. So there are 13 different ways or different categories that will qualify you for that. And I know, Darla, you told us yesterday the most common one that we're going to see is falling under the learning disability category. Could you tell us more about what that is and kind of what falls under that?
Sure. So like Ashley said, there's 13 different eligibility categories. So we could go on, we could spend a whole webinar on eligibility categories, but talking about specific learning disability. So either there's going to be a specific learning disability in math or reading. And what that's looking at is we've got average or above average intelligence. These kids are smart, but their academic achievement is here. So there's a disconnect. It's like, hey, wait a minute, we've got average, above average intelligence, but we are just not making those grades. We are just not making those gains. There's some kind of disconnect. And I will tell you that my little sister, one of the reasons why I became a teacher, gonna get a little emotional. My little sister, Charla, 4 years younger than me. I loved school. I was a rock star at school. Charla hated school. And it was because she had a learning disability. And I thought, I want to be a teacher that connects with kids' hearts and helps kids like my sister, because I want them to feel and know that they matter and that they're not dumb. Because I knew my sister was smart, but I also knew that she had trouble showing her intelligence. Now, you give that girl a mic and let her sing. I mean, she could bring the house down. She had talents, so many other talents than just her academics. But basically, what we're looking at is there's just a disconnect between academic, cognitive intelligence, IQ, and academic achievement. Like it's not, there's something there. And one of the things we talked about yesterday is I'm in the letters training right now, and they were talking about the brain development and how neurotypical kiddos, if they've had 4 to 5 exposures of some topic or content area, whatever learning, 4 to 5 exposures, normally they can get it, grasp it, move it into like long-term memory. For kiddos with learning disabilities, dyslexia, dysgraphia, that kind of thing, it could take 80 to 100 repetitions. So if you've ever been working with a kiddo and you're like, we've got it, we have figured out our sight words, we've got them, we're in. And then you pick it up the next day and it's like, yeah, I've never seen that word before. You're like, wait a minute, we had them yesterday. It could possibly be an indicator of one of those, where it's just not staying in that long-term memory, and they'll get it. They just need extra time. So,
Right. Absolutely.
That is awesome. So thank you so much for that explanation. That was really great. I love that what you talked about with the letters. I know that letters training is available for teachers, correct? Is that right?
Yeah.
Ms. Cooper? Okay, very good.
Yeah, it is.
Okay,
It's available for teachers and that's through the State Department. And if you are an EPIC teacher, we also have a whole department. You can look under RSA or type in EPIC One, and it'll come up letters training.
very, very good. Outstanding. Okay, thank you. Well, I have more questions for you.
Okay.
I want to ask you about the differences between a 504 and an IEP. Okay. So you already expressed what an IEP is. So tell us a little bit about what a 504 is and what its purposes are.
Okay. So an IEP is always a combination of one of our eligibility categories that we talked about, and also a lack of academic progress. It's like both of those things have to be there to be on an IEP. You have to be having issues with your academic progress. A 504 is really, honestly, most of the time it is a medical need. Um, or it could be like anxiety or something like that. It's going to be a doctor diagnosis or a qualified examiner diagnosis for some type of issue that needs some accommodations. So, like for example, our kiddos that have diabetes, they might need to check their blood sugar, which means that they may have to, their monitor is in their arm and they may have to take their phone into some type of testing area or whatever because they have to check their sugar. They might need to be able to bring snacks into a testing site or something like that. That would be an example. Kiddos with anxiety disorder may need a smaller group for testing. Maybe they get really panicky in large groups. We have a whole team. Lindsay Page and her team are amazing. So they can take you and if you've got one of those situations where academically you're doing fine, your grades are fine, but you might need some accommodations. Um, that's the way to go. So if academics are good, but you still need some type of accommodation, then Lindsay Page is your girl. 504s.
Very good. Do you have to have a SPED certified teacher to have, if you have a 504?
Now, if you have a 504, you do not need a SPED certified teacher.
Okay.
But what's nice, there's a lot of our SPED certified teachers that have both SPED students who are on IEPs, and also gen ed teachers. So just because you have a special education teacher doesn't mean that, you're on an IEP. The same thing. 504 students might be with a SPED teacher, but they might not. So.
Okay, very good. All right. I think Ashley, do you have some questions for her? I'm looking at mine. You are doing so well, Miss Cooper. You're answering our questions before we ask them. That's great.
Sorry.
And I wanted to digress a little bit because I wanted to tell everyone that you are an amazing not only an amazing administrator with EPIC, but also a parent with with EPIC. And I want you to tell us just a little bit about that in a few moments. But as we kind of get our questions together, because like I said, you've done such a great job of answering some questions for us. So tell us a little bit about your students with EPIC, because they have been SPED students too. And I know they've had some great outcomes, and you've had some wonderful experiences as a SPED parent with EPIC. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I actually, one of the reasons why I found EPIC originally was my husband and I decided to adopt a sibling group out of the foster care system. So we went from having one biological kiddo to having four children overnight. And of those three kiddos, we found out really, really quickly that they needed a lot of therapy, a lot of things like that. And I was a teacher, you guys. I was burning through my sick leave and brick and mortar, and I needed hard worker. I mean, I'll do anything you ask me to do, but I needed some flexibility to take them to speech therapy, occupational therapy, physical therapy, and they needed some flexibility as well. So um, we kind of vacillated in and out of brick and mortar and EPIC, but two of my four have graduated from EPIC, and I've got one more who's a senior. And currently, I think it's okay. Is it okay to say this? Currently, I'm in my laundry room because my kid is on the esports team, and they're having some type of national esports competition in the other room. and they can get a little loud. So I'm currently hanging out with me and my dryer in here instead of in my office. So hopefully that's okay to say. But anyway, that is my journey. But but as far as Epic is concerned, I love as a parent the ability, like, I mean, that whole thing about go jump on the trampoline, go climb a tree, that was my life because these kids would go stand on their heads. I mean, they would wrestle on the floor, whatever. But I'm like, get back to your Play-Doh. What are you doing? Get off. What? I would walk over there and it looked like they were doing their work. And, I had one that loved Doctor Who and he'd be binge watching Doctor Who on another tab. And I was like, what is happening? Come back to your work, that kind of thing. So
That's
I
awesome.
see,
I
I
love
see
that.
you, Epic parents. I see you. I get you.
I love that you shared your story about
I do
esports.
too.
I think that is hilarious. And I mean, it's just the realities. And I'm sure many people watching today can relate to that, And I think that's awesome. And that's so fun. And yeah. So I hope I hear a little hoop and holler at some point because
I
that'll tell me
know.
that it's going well. I think that's
We
so
want it.
great.
We're going to be hooping and hollering with them.
Exactly.
Ashley and I are the biggest fans of esports.
Yeah, so
So,
I can't wait to hear how it goes. You'll have to tell us later. Okay,
right.
Darla, so I have a question. Something that I feel like I hear from parents pretty frequently is how do IUPs, how are they different in a virtual setting at Epic compared to brick and mortar, or are they different?
So we actually, one of the very first things that we'll do whenever you come from the brick and mortar setting to Epic is we do an intake IEP. And basically, we take a look at what services were offered to you in brick and mortar, and then we work through those and see, do those even make sense here? A lot of times kids are on like behavior improvement plans. Well, if we're on a behavior improvement plan in brick and mortar, those same parameters may not even make sense at home. I mean, they may not be interacting with other people. We can still work on behavior goals, but those behavior goals might look very different. Um, we offer direct instruction, so that's going to be with your teacher meeting with you once, twice, three times. Sometimes we had. I know whenever Carla and I were teaching together in the same department, we had kind of a co-op of teachers that we did a virtual group instruction. So not only were you meeting with me, you were also meeting with Miss Smitherman for math, or you were meeting with Miss Price for writing or whatever. I mean, we had that going as well. So you might be in person with your teacher, then maybe you're with a small group at a microsite, then you might be on a virtual call here. We try to give our special ed students lots of support if at all possible. So we do have IEP goals. Those are individualized. We really encourage our teachers to look at their eligibility documents and see what are the areas that they really need that help. And then those are the areas that we assign goals. But then those goals we pull from their benchmarking data. So basically, it's all individualized based on the student to their needs. And we try to give them, you know, every that just right level to where we can navigate them forward and move them. So
Absolutely. I think that's great. And I just think it's important to share so that families know we can offer the same services that they would expect in their brick and mortar setting. And yeah, we're going to make it individual for them and it'll change a little bit because like you said, the environment is different. So you can have some things you might be able to drop off completely or just change. So thank you for addressing that. So let's say I have a family that they're feeling like their student might need to be on an IEP. Could you give us a little background information on what that process is like, getting them to the IEP?
So going back to what we talked about just a little while ago was, remember, your IEP is where you have eligibility through one of those 13 categories, which there's lots of them, but also that you're showing an academic need, right? There's something not working academically. So one of the very first things that our team, so you're going to have to, at the point that we start looking at eligibility for special education, some of the first things we're going to look at is interventions. Have interventions been done? Have they been done with fidelity? And did we move the needle at all? So, if you are in one of the RTI intervention programs, make sure that you're helping your kiddos get those interventions done. 20 minutes a day, that kind of thing, because that is data that team can use to look at. Because if they make the gains, then great, we can get them to grade level and we're like, woo, we all celebrate. But if we aren't making those gains, then we are going to need, some more help, some more intervention. We're going to need to try to figure out what's going on, get curious about that. So that eligibility process, some of the first thing they're going to do is a thing called a RED, which is not the color red. So just so you know, it's a RED stands for Review of Existing Data. Um, yeah, I'm so literal. Like the red. When I was first became a teacher, the red. What's red? I'm looking for a red folder, a red. I don't know. It's review of existing data. Anyway, but you're going to take a look, and it's a real comprehensive look at that kiddo. What has happened. They're going to pull as many benchmarks as they can find. They're going to look at their interventions, and that's why we put so much emphasis on the RTI process, getting them in those intervention programs like Lexia, like Dreambox, some of the iReady, some of the intervention programs that we have. We want them in those programs and working because those programs are adaptable. They adjust to the kids' difficulty level, so they get them at their just right level, and then they try to move them forward. I mean, that's the plan, is to move them forward. They don't work if you don't work it. So, get them in there, get them working, and then we can get that data in there to where we can, when we do that at review of existing data, we'll look at it and go, yeah, we've got two things. We probably need to move on to getting a parent consent for testing. And then testing is going, do you want me to go into that part, or not, leave that alone for a minute?
No, you are
Just
you are
jump in.
perfect. Go
Okay, just
ahead.
jump into
You are
okay.
that's the next question.
So
We love you. You are doing exactly. You're
you
giving the answers. We appreciate it.
sorry.
This is great.
It's
No,
like I'm
no,
jumping into other questions. All right. Review of
no. We're
existing
fine.
data. So that red meeting, that's not red, but it's the review of existing data. So that team that's together in that is going to be a general education teacher, special educator, an administrator with Epic. So that could be a principal. It might be one of our compliance specialist team. Shout out to our compliance specialist, Valerie Watkins, and
Yes.
her team. Amazing.
Yes.
Anyway,
Yeah.
compliance specialist. It could be, and then one of our school psychologists or another qualified examiner coming in. We're all going to get together. So they call it a multidisciplinary team because basically we all kind of look at, getting all the people at the table so we can look at this kiddo and go, what do we need to do here? And then once we determine, hey, we probably do need to look. This kiddo's done all their interventions. We're still not moving the needle. Let's move on to more testing. So then the school psychologist is going to draft a list of tests that can be given. Now, almost every eligibility category is going to require IQ testing and achievement testing. Those are almost across the board what we need for almost every kid. So those are the two tests that they need, but they might also look at, there's also, oh goodness gracious, there's a whole 2 pages full of different tests that the team might suggest, but just listen to those specialists on the call, because they're going to say, hey, we might need this thing looked at. We're a little worried about their speech. Maybe we can get a speech evaluation in here, and we're going to check off those boxes of what needs to be done. And then that requires an in-person signature. Sometimes they call it a wet signature. It's not like you're not supposed to sign it over the internet. You're supposed to be in person to sign it. And one of the reasons why that is because that actually starts a timeline for us as a district. We have 45 days from the time that parent consent is signed, parent consent for evaluation, to complete that testing. Now, 45 school days, if there's 5 days in a school day week, that's a full 9 weeks from the time that you sign that parent consent for testing until that meeting to go over those results and to determine eligibility is held. So, I mean, just that portion is 9 weeks. That's not counting the probably 9 weeks to a semester that you've done of intervention work. So I mean, this could easily be a semester, maybe even 2 semesters long as far as determining eligibility. But once we determine eligibility, then if they say, yes, this kiddo is eligible for special education services, then that eligibility stands for 3 years. And then we do an IEP annually. Every year they do an IEP, but that eligibility is good for 3 years. And so, and then we'll look 3 years, we'll look again. Do we need to test again? Are we good with this category? What do we, let's look at the benchmarks, and then we move on from there. That was a really long answer, girls.
No,
Sorry.
that was fine. I think this was great. You answered all our questions. So you're wonderful. We appreciate you. I think that there are so many families out there that don't understand this process, Ms. Cooper. So we appreciate you.
Can
And
can I throw out too,
yeah,
one of the
please.
goals that I always felt, and Carla, you and I have been on IEP calls together. One of my goals as a special education parent comes from me as a mama. Um, I never have really liked feeling run over in an IEP meeting. Um, like, hey, these are all the things that are wrong with your kiddo. Sign here, sign here, sign here, get out the door. I always kind of felt a little bit railroaded as a mom. It feels vulnerable walking in and feeling like your heart walking outside of your chest is walking into this IEP meeting. And we do ours through phone calls or Zooms. And but I always wanted my parents to say, I want this to be the best IEP experience you've ever had. I want you to feel like your voice matters. You are an integral part of this team, right? Because at Epic, we take good care of kids. That's what we do. That's who we are
Absolutely.
at our core.
Absolutely.
And we're going to celebrate your kid. One of my first years teaching, I got a little plaque that was painted and it said, Miss Cooper celebrates all children. And it had pictures of kids, and one of the kiddos was in a wheelchair. And anyway, I want that to be true of me, but I want that to be true of my department. And I know that's true of our school. We take good care of kids and we celebrate kids because everybody brings something unique to the table.
Well, I absolutely agree with you. I know we absolutely partner with our families, and I know that absolutely the SPED department does. We have to partner with them to make it work. And I love how you put that. I know that that is something that's real important to you, and you stressed it with all of our team many times. And so that is an exceptionally great part of what makes SPED different. So I appreciate what you're saying. So I think one of our next questions is, I think you kind of already alluded to it a little bit about, we talked about a little bit about accommodations. We talked about modifications. What are some of the other parts of the IEP that you might be able to address on that maybe we haven't talked about? Can you consider what are some of the other, if you are a family member and like you said, you're never heard of an IEP, but you're thinking, wow, I think I might, my student has struggled for many years. I really, I've heard of a cousin that's had one, might be something my student might need. What are some of the other areas that you can think of? We've talked about accommodations, we've talked about modifications. You've mentioned the red. So what is something else that might be a part of the IEP?
One of the things that I think is really, really important to know, and this goes back to that story about my little sister, is just because a kiddo is reading on a third grade level and they're in the sixth grade doesn't necessarily mean that they understand on a third grade level. They probably understand a lot closer to that sixth grade level. So one of the things that we really strive to do in our department is is to keep moving you forward. So those accommodations like text to speech. Do you know that like every single one of our core curriculums has a screen reader that's built into the system? You literally can highlight words, push play on almost all of our curriculums. May not be everyone, but I think almost everyone has a text to speech feature. And so, just because you read on the third grade level doesn't mean that you can't have access to that sixth grade curriculum if you're a sixth grader. So we definitely want to make sure that you're still being able to access that sixth grade curriculum. So use your we want our students to remember to use those accommodations that are actually built in to a lot of our core curriculums. Another thing too, we kind of talked about accommodations, I know, when we were talking about 504s, but one of the things that I point out to everybody, and this is actually a tip for uh, parents and staff as well. In Google Docs, there is a voice typing feature. Like literally, if you open up a new doc and you hit tools, there's voice typing. So just like you would pick up your phone, and say, "Hey Siri, da 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 da," make my grocery list. I mean, you literally can do that in Google Docs. And all I'm saying is there are ways, maybe even if you're not on IEP, if you're on an IEP or not on an IEP, there are tools built within our system that can help you be successful or just lessen that cognitive fatigue. Sometimes your brain just gets tired, you know? And for our students that have learning disabilities, we were talking about like that 100 repetitions that they're going to need. Goodness gracious, they're just tired sometimes. So if we can use those accommodations to just relieve a bit of that cognitive fatigue, that is, we're winning at life, right? So,
Right,
um,
right. I love
yeah,
that. That's great. So if I'm a parent and I'm struggling, I know my student is having problems in Bright Thinker. And I know they are. There's possibility of an opportunity that I can go in to get help with that reading. Is that what you're saying?
yeah,
Or Play-Doh or
yeah,
okay, that's great. Okay,
absolutely. Well, I mean, that's the
good.
thing. You probably don't even realize it because you probably, but literally almost all of our programs highlight the words, push play, it will read it to you. Let's say it doesn't. Let's say it's one of the curriculums or something that doesn't have that in there, or you can ask your teacher because it's probably there. But if you would like a screen reader, you can just download one as an attachment and voila, you've got a screen reader. And it'll sometimes my kids like to like to use the accents. They really like sometimes having their curriculum read in an Australian accent because it just makes them laugh or whatever they think it's cool. So there's that. Uh, but we've got tools available to us, and for our special education students, we definitely want to make sure that we're just not losing time with them, right? Just because they're reading at a third grade level doesn't necessarily mean that they understand. I mean, they may understand much closer to their chronological age if they're below grade level in reading. Same thing with math. If they are a math kiddo, I mean, if they struggle with math, and they're in the 5th grade, but their math scores are showing they're at 3rd grade level, what happens if you give them a calculator? How much of that is just math facts? We want them to learn their math facts. I'm not saying that we don't, but for our IEP students, our students that we know already have a diagnosed disability, what happens when we hand them a calculator, teach them how to use it? Is that something that can help them access that 5th grade curriculum and stay on track? You know, that's what we're about. Let's take good care of kids, right? That's who we are at Epic. We take good
Absolutely.
care of kids.
I love that. I love that. Let's take good care of your kids. I think maybe we should get a t-shirt that says that. Let's take good
hmm
care of kids. I
We
love
take
that.
good care of kids.
Let's
That's
take
what
good
we
care.
do.
We take good care of kids. I like that. Ashley, do you have any other questions? Miss Cooper, you have done such a brilliant job of answering our questions that I really appreciate it. I think we've talked about the struggling student. You've kind of given us some tips with that, with the Google Voice. Um, the writing portion. We've talked about some tips with the curriculum and the reader support. Oh, I know I have a question for you. How about an IEP? Is there, if I have an IEP, is there something that can I use this for a post-secondary student if I'm a post-secondary student?
Absolutely. That's a great question because um, absolutely, almost every post-secondary institution has a department that helps with accessibility for disabilities or learning struggles or whatever. And I have a story actually to share about my own son. I have 4 kiddos, 3 of them we adopted. All 3 of those guys were on IEPs throughout their entire school career. But my own son, my own biological son, they're all my sons, but my biological one had never been on an IEP in his life. Um, and then he had a terrible car wreck whenever he turned 18. He had just graduated from Epic. Um, and he was an early graduate and he just graduated, had a terrible car wreck, ended up in ICU, touch and go there for a while. Okay. But he still wanted to go to college. So we worked with the OTs and the PTs and all that kind of stuff. He had to learn to walk again and he had to learn all these things, but he still wanted to go to college. We showed up at that office and said, okay, kid has never been on an IEP in his life, but he has traumatic brain injury. Help us. And they hooked us up with note takers, and he could go to the testing center to take his tests. He could have text to speech because his reading wasn't where it used to be, all those kinds of things. So whether you've been on if you've been on an IEP, take your IEP to your post-secondary institution, say, help me. They will help you. They have a whole team there. And then even if they haven't been on one, but something happens like a car wreck, go there. They will help you. I know that I was a tutor for an accessibility center whenever I was at Texas Tech University in undergrad. I tutored college algebra.
Wow,
So
very
fun
good.
times have I all.
Yeah, very good. Well, I will tell you that I have learned even more information. I think one of the great things about Ask Epic, Miss Darla, every time I'm on here, I learn something new. Just everything you share with us today about this, everything your department is doing, and you have described to me it's a new department, which is exciting. You told us today about some of the things you told me today, some of the things you all did today. Tell everyone today about what you did today. I thought that was really interesting. Some of the training
Yeah.
that you provided
So
today.
yeah, so uh the SPED you teach department and our department are partnering together to help our teachers that have mild, moderate special education certificates get their severe and profound certificates. So we just met. There, I believe she said 95 teachers at Epic are have an alternative certificate. They have given them a provisional, severe and profound certificate, and they have 2 years to complete. All There's several different modules. There's different kinds of observations and things that they have to do. But we met with almost half of those guys today in a Zoom and just talked through the modules, encouraged them, told them you can do this, rah, rah. But it was very exciting to see these teachers continuing their education. That's what makes me think. I mean, Epic has some amazing, amazing teachers that would be willing to spend extra time to get this extra certificate so they can serve their students better. So that was really fun
That
coming
is
from that.
exciting. Well, I know that they're going to do great things as your department continues to do. But anyway, thank you so much, Darla, for being here today and sharing this information to our families. We have such exceptional families, such
Agreed.
amazing team. And the Special Education Department equips our families with tools and strategies to meet these, kind of complicated families and their challenges. So we're just so happy that our SPED department partners with our families. And you just kind of shared today some of these ways. And I think we've kind of melted some of the ice today. I hope we did by sharing some of these ways that the SPED department does what they do. It is just a very challenging every daily ways that we meet the needs of these families. So we thank you so much again. Just by meeting the needs, we're empowering our students to reach their full potential. Every student is unique with Epic, and we want to make sure that we're doing our part every day. So we're just grateful. So, Miss Ashley, do you
Yeah.
have something? You have any questions for Miss Darla?
No, I think you guys have covered it. I just want to say thank you, Darla. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Anybody, if you joined in late or you just maybe have some more questions about anything we discussed today or really anything to do with Epic, please send us an email. I've got our email address and our phone line here in the chat box. And if you joined late and missed the beginning, we covered a lot today and it
We
was
did.
really great information. So don't worry though, if you missed the beginning, the recording will be posted on the Epic website. So go to our Epic website and hit the About button up at the top and then FAQ, and you're going to see all our Ask Epics. They're written out by title of what we discussed, so you can kind of pick and choose on what you want to learn about. I love that we have these recordings posted. I know that we've got families, like current Epic families that are watching watching them. We have potential Epic families, we have staff members. So I just think that's so great that those recordings are there. I know for myself, whenever I need to, oh yeah, what was it that they said about the Learning Fund? Let me go back and find that in the video. It's helped me a ton. So anyways, just thank you so much again for being here. And yeah, we won't be here next week because
Nope.
fall break, which I'm a little bit sad to miss out on Ask Epic, but I am cheering and throwing a party because it's fall break. So I'm excited about that. So thank
Yes.
you, everybody. Have a great week, and we'll see you
Yeah.
in 2 weeks.
Thank you for
Bye.
joining us for Ask Epic. See you in 2 weeks. Bye,
Bye, guys.
everybody. Bye-bye.